Welcome to Defeat Your Cravings, hosted by Dr. Glenn Livingston, PhD. Glenn has held his doctorate in psychology for more than 30 years and is also a former multi-million-dollar consultant to the big food industry and uses his experience to help you defeat your cravings. This show will help you to focus on dramatically reducing cravings and leave the diet mentality behind, so you can more easily and effortlessly achieve your health, fitness, and body composition goals. Please remember, no doctor-patient relationship is created via this show, and you are responsible for confirming any changes to your diet, health, or psychological routines with an appropriately licensed professional before implementing them. Now, before we get started, if you haven't yet downloaded the free smartphone app to access dozens of these recordings all in one place, as well as to avail yourself of a confidential community for support, motivation, and assistance, please visit the podcast link on defeatyourcravings.com as soon as possible. And now, here's your host, Dr. Glenn Livingston.
Hey, it's the very good Dr. Glenn Livingston at defeatyourcravings.com. And I am here with a very kind woman and coach named Shari, who has agreed to let me record this session so you can benefit from her strength and wisdom and experience and hope, as well as her trials and tribulations and stumbles and falls. Right, Shari?
Excellent. Thank you, Dr. Glenn. I'm so glad to be here.
So happy to have you here. So give us a little background about what led you to this moment in time, what you're trying to accomplish, and how I could help.
Yeah, thank you. This is something I haven't said out loud to too many people, but I've started to in the last several months. And that is that I have had a binge eating disorder since I can remember as a little kid. Essentially, I attribute that somewhat to the fact that in the household that I grew up in, it was a very healthy household, very little junk food, very little sugar allowed in the house. And I'm very grateful for that. So that did teach me to eat well, and I do enjoy eating good, whole, natural food. But I do remember very, very early on as a child, at any opportunity that I had to get out of the house and get access to those things, I made sure that I did it at friends' houses, grandparents' houses, aunts' houses, you name it, kind of anywhere out of the house, really would find that kind of food and binge on it to the extent that I could. I recognized this issue, somewhere in my teens and 20s, looked to resolve it in a variety of different helping modalities over the years, and then found your Defeat Your Cravings methodology to be the most effective in terms of my ability to kind of chart my own course and for the most part, be able to really stick with a plan. So I've appreciated working with you and, have a few more things to keep tweaking.
Why do you say that? Why was it most effective to chart your own course and create your own plan?
I think that this idea of feeling like I could have the ability to eat the foods that I enjoy, so both healthy foods and lesser healthy foods, to be able to put them into a plan in a way that I could have them periodically and not abolish them from my eating whatsoever has been helpful for me. But I'd say that it's been most helpful, and I've been very disciplined when I have a specific goal in mind. So as you know, I'm a competitive fitness athlete. I'm very, very good at sticking to the food plan and the rules for, let's say, like a 12-week period when I have a very specific goal at the end. But after that 12 weeks, I've had issues where, I've kind of gone off the plan for a little while, and then oftentimes it's been more difficult to get back on. And I've been working on why that is. And what I really figured out most recently is that I identified with those short-term identities or those short-term goals of the fitness competition or the bikini event, as opposed to really being able to roll up my sleeves and truly identify with the bigger why, a long-term sustainable why.
That's a very interesting way to look at it. It's a very important insight. Tell me a little bit more about that. How do you distinguish your long-term sustainable why from your short-term goals?
It's been really interesting over the years. I'll sort of give you another example of a kind of habit that I had that I was able to break very easily with having a really big why. And that was back in 2013. I had actually been a smoker for a long time. Again, something that a lot of people don't know, but I had started kind of when I was a teenager, on again, off again, a casual smoker. And I had a situation where we were at a party and I was in the backyard And one of my kids came out. I have two boys, two sons, and one of them must have been, I don't know, 6 years old, 7 years old. And I hid the cigarette behind my back. And this was October of 2012. And I said to myself, if this is something that I have to hide from the kids, then I don't want to do it. I don't want my children to see me engaging in this type of behavior. And plus, of course, obviously, I knew it wasn't healthy for me and I wanted to stop. And I made a decision at that moment to be a role model for my children and that I would stop on New Year's Eve. And sure enough, New Year's Eve that night, I had my last cigarette, put it out, and never smoked again.
Hmm.
It's been amazing to me that I could so easily stop a habit, such an addictive habit like that, by having such a strong why. But yet, when it comes to food, it has been so much more difficult for long-term sustainability of eradicating the habits.
It sounds like something's shifting with that for you now, or are you still struggling?
I'm having a really big shift right now, and I've had a lot of aha moments in the last several weeks, months since you and I have been working together. And that is that I was able to quit that smoking habit because I wanted to be such a strong role model for my children and my family and friends and other people around me. And I now have a new career in my life where I've recently become a fitness and lifestyle coach. And the why that I have now around nutrition and fitness is really deeply rooted in me being an athlete, having an identity as an athlete, but also as a role model for positive body image and positive behavior when it comes to eating and being able to help others achieve their fitness and lifestyle goals. And so I'm revisiting my food plan and I'm revisiting my big why and really deeply rooting it in that ability to show up as my best self for other people that I'm helping as well.
Do you find that there are things you will do because of your desire to be a role model with integrity that you couldn't do for yourself? Things you'll do for other people that you wouldn't do for yourself?
Yes, and that is where I have struggled a little bit. So again, in those periods where I am highly disciplined, very specifically for a fitness competition, I've been able to show up as my best self and inspire others around me who aspire to improve their lives or even eventually become a competitive fitness athlete. But the ability to figure out now, how do I really deeply root myself? What can I do that this makes it something that I'm able to truly stick to? And what I've said to you in the past in our coaching, and this was a big aha that I had kind of this morning, what I've said to you in the past is, I know I need to do the work. What does that really mean? The work means to do the exercises in the program, to do the refutations, to record my food plan and listen to it every day, to do the work required. And I think up until truly just today, I've been saying I need to do the work as opposed to having a new identity, which is that I do the work.
Oh, I like that. I do the work as opposed to I
Do
need
the
to do the
work.
work. When you say I need to do the work, it's like someday I'm going to do the work.
Right, exactly.
I'm going to kind of sort of get it around to it. One day you'll see.
Right. And I
When I'm
realized
85, 86 years old, I'll do the work then.
I'll do the work then. And when I get compliments on my physique, very simply, when I get compliments on my physique, I say, thank you. I do the work because I'm trying to relay that, yes, it takes hard work and it's not magic or a miracle that I look the way that I do. I'm in the gym 2 or 3 hours a day doing the work. I thought to myself, oh, well, that's exactly it. I'm able to say I do the fitness work, I do the training work. I want to be able to confidently say I do the work in the kitchen also, right? Or I do the work at social events, or I do the work when I'm in a restaurant. I'm doing the work that it takes to be able to follow my food plan, which, by the way, I like very much, but more than for just 12 weeks at a time, but always.
And so what's stopping you from doing that?
That is a good question.
Well, let's just talk practicalities for a
Yeah.
moment. Is the target too difficult to sustain for more than 12 weeks at a time? Is there anything realistic about, most athletes I know, they peak for a little while and then they let loose a little bit and then they peak again. Is there anything to the idea that the target is actually too tight to sustain on a
Mm.
constant
Mhm.
basis?
What I love about my food rules that I have created in partnership with you over the months that we were working together is I created it in such a way where there is flexibility in it. So, for example, when I'm training for a fitness competition, I have a very specific calorie count that I need to abide by and a very specific macro account, protein, carbohydrates, and fats that I'm going to eat. And I will stick to that. But what we've put into the food plan that I really like very much is that it says I will stick to a specific scientific calorie and macro mix. And that allows me then to be able to come off of the really stringent, let's say, calories that I need to be on when I'm doing more of like a prep for a competition. And to be able then to say, okay, how much do I really need when I'm kind of, I don't want to say in between competitions, but maybe more for athletic performance. Let's put it that way. So for good, solid athletic fuel performance, I can have more calories and I can have more protein and I can have more carbohydrates. And
I got
so,
you.
yeah. So it's a matter of just saying, okay, you know what? I did this fitness competition. And then often what I'll do too is I have some allowance for, vacation. So I'll say, okay, I'll kind of take a vacation for a week or so after that fitness competition. And then I need to adjust appropriately and then stick to a new plan. So there's flexibility. Sometimes there's getting back on the plan altogether. That's where it gets a little tricky.
So even though you are allowing more calories between competitions, you're still not necessarily sticking to that because there's not a specific competitive goal.
It has made it harder in the past where, quite frankly, I think I would stick to the plan almost out of the fear of God, like knowing, okay, you've got this big competition coming up and you really want to perform well, whether it be an endurance competition or whether it be a bikini event. And, I'd have this sort of like this fear of God in me that, you got to stick to it. And now, as I'm getting ready to get back on the plan, because I just did a fitness competition last week. So I took this little mini vacation off. And in my vacations, I allow myself to pretty much have whatever I want. But now it's time to get back on, is where I'm revisiting the food plan again and saying, okay, how can I really optimize this for consistency and sustainability and not out of fear, right? More out of this concept again of wanting for it to be my lifestyle, for this plan to be my lifestyle, as opposed to feeling like it's something that I have to do, but really something more that I want to do because it gives me freedom from feeling unhealthy. And again, being a role model for others. So that's where I am now. I'm at this point now where I'm saying, okay, it's time to revisit the plan and really boost it and optimize it. And this concept of identity, like really deeply rooting in my new identity as an athlete and a fitness and a lifestyle coach, feels a lot better than fear.
Shari is talking about in my paid program, I have two optional modules towards the end where people are working aggressively on crafting the identity they want, which actually turns out to be simpler than you think it is because we talk about values being represented by the rules that you want to follow. Like you act out your values, you vote with your feet. And so if you always put your gym clothes out before bed, then you must be a person who wants to go to the gym. Therefore, you must value fitness and health. As you see yourself doing that every day, it starts to become just who you are. And then identity becomes a shortcut for what you do at the moment of temptation. And so when you can figure out what values do you want to represent and how are you going to act out your values so that you observe yourself over time being the person that you want to be, so that sooner or later you don't even necessarily need the rules. Sooner or later it just becomes who you are. That's what
Exactly.
Sherry's talking about. So you've been working on that a little more aggressively. And
Yes.
so you want to talk a little more about that and how that's helping or not helping?
Yeah, I would love to. Actually, it is like you said, the last part of your paid program that I kind of had been putting off for a while. I
Only
had
about
a
10% of people ever get to the end.
Yeah, and I've wanted to do it for many months, and I've had a note in my calendar, and I was so glad to have this opportunity because I said, this is it. This is now when I'm going to do this worksheet. And so The worksheet has an identity map and an identity canvas and the three values that I wrote out for myself. Well, first of all, the identity description is athlete, fitness, and lifestyle coach. And then underneath that, I wrote, I do the work. And in parentheses, in all areas that support this identity. And then the three values that I wrote out. So the first value is that I always fuel like an athlete. The second value is that I always train and recover like an athlete. And the third value is that I am a role model for positive body image and I help others achieve their fitness and lifestyle goals.
That feels very
Really good.
motivating to you.
Very motivating. Yes.
Okay. That sounds like you. That sounds like everything I know about you so far.
Thank you. I wrote underneath all those character traits under always fuel like an athlete. Many of my food rules are in there, or all of them actually. And especially in under fuel like an athlete. And these are some of the things that you and I worked on together. That's it's part of doing the work, right? So when I say I do the work, this is part of the work. It's that I can have whatever I want. I just can't have it at any time, and I can't have it all at once. And going back to this concept of how I believe I acquired this binge eating disorder to begin with, that I'm not a child anymore. And in fact, I'm so lucky that I actually have the ability to control my choice of what I eat every day. Not you, Mr. Pig. That's I have to remember to tell the pig I get to control what I eat every day, not you, Mr. Pig. And then kind of this overarching mantra that I do need to practice more, using more, is that if I don't binge now, I will never binge again because it's always now. That is definitely something that I learned through us working together.
Right. Sure, this sounds really solid. This sounds really solid. It sounds like a matter of executing it consistently over time until it really just becomes second nature to you and becomes who you are.
I agree. And that's why I say, like, I do think that when I'm feeling bad about myself or I've faltered or I haven't followed the program or I've not done a particular rule, it's been, I'm very aware of it, very conscious, very aware. And like we said before, saying, I know I just need to do the work, right? Like it's somewhere in the future. But now I want my identity to be that I do the work. What comes very easy to me is the training. Everybody knows that. I could be in the gym 2-3 hours a day because I just love to train and I love to get strong and stronger, faster, more efficient, et cetera. And so
Like the
doing the
$6
work in
million
the gym.
woman.
Yeah, yes, that's what I'd like to be. So doing the work in the gym is
Giving
easy.
away my age, but yeah.
Yeah, and me too. I'm right there with you. Doing the work in the gym is easy. It's doing the work in the nutrition that's harder. And I'm going to keep telling myself I do the work. So there's a couple of things that I wrote down that are really probably like the most good habits that if I do them, it kind of changes everything, which is part of my food plan is that I never eat or drink anything in front of any screen. So not in front of the television, not in front of the phone, not in front of the laptop, because eating in front of a screen is a really triggering event for me, probably the most triggering event for me that I've had, since I was a kid. And so I find that when I stick to that role, when I do the work, and that is doing the work and sticking to that role, I'm much more successful.
Probably monumentally so. That's a very different change in lifestyle.
Yeah. And it's hard. There's no doubt about it that is hard for me to do. And that's really when I do need to work with the refutations that if I don't binge now, I will never binge again because it's always now, or that I do the work, or I'm not a child anymore sitting in front of the television.
Okay, those are kind of the reasons to avoid eating in front of the screen. But what benefits do you get by eating at a table or, eating without distraction? What's the benefit you get from
Oh, I've practiced this so much in the last several weeks. What's interesting about this too is that I do have to actually say to other people in my household, I need about 15 more minutes so I can sit and I can eat this. Let's say I'm having a protein bar for dessert. And normally I would have taken that with me and I would eat that at the TV. And then even though I had a protein bar and said, this is dessert, as soon as I'm sitting in front of the television, that kind of creates a binge trigger. And then I would keep going from there. So now I will say to my husband or my son, we got to put off movie night for, about 15 minutes because I'm going to sit at the table and I'm going to finish this. it feels really empowering to be able to not only make that decision for myself, but to be able to say that out loud. And my family wants me to win. So they are very encouraging of that. And of course, say, no problem, that's fine. And I feel much more mindful about what it is that I'm actually eating. And it feels like kind of showing my age too, right? But like the set it and forget it kind of thing, right? Like I'm gonna have this, and then I'm gonna set it and forget it. That's it. I'm done eating for the night. And it's very symbolic of being done in the kitchen and finishing my meal. And that's it. I'm done with it. I'm done with it. I
And living a
recorded it.
life of
I'm finished.
integrity and walking
Correct.
the walk and
Yeah.
being in control. Yeah,
Yes. Mm-hmm.
great. Well, good. So you very specifically spelled out what doing the work means to you. And I think just changing the mantra could make all the difference in the world. I do the work as opposed to I need
Mm-hmm.
to. I think that could make all the difference in the world.
I agree. I mean, I have found that to be the case. Like, so for example, I don't say that I don't smoke. I say I'm a non-smoker. It's just not something I do, period. So this actually makes me feel like I have the ability to do the work that needs to be done.
So having that identity as
Yeah.
someone who does the work to be athletic and a role model, is that enough to keep you compliant between competitions? Is that enough to escape the fear of God as a motivator?
Yeah. Okay. So the one thing that really helps, like we just said, is if I avoid, eating in front of screens. The other flexible thing that is in my food plan that has been a little controversial for myself, has been that I have this list of controllable foods. And I defined these controllable foods as that I eat only one controllable food item per day. And then I've actually added, since you and I have worked, in a meal consisting of at least 20 grams of protein. These controllable foods include things like bagels, tortilla chips, even cookies, cakes, like pretty much anything that is the opposite of my general guideline, which is to choose mostly whole natural foods that contain less than 2 grams of sugar. Like that's kind of my overall guideline, right? So these controllable foods are kind of the opposite of that. I've actually had most of those controllable foods out of the house completely for the last several months that I've been training for one of these fitness competitions. And this past week, when I went food shopping, I actually bought a bunch of them: tortilla chips, bagels, granola, things that I just hadn't had in the house for a good 3, 4 months. And because I have allowed myself, essentially, this has been like a vacation week this past week since I just finished a competition, I am wondering if I'm truly able to control the controllables. I will admit that I'm a little worried. I'm not going to lie about that. I'm a little worried.
Do you think that it would be a lower bar to not eat controllable foods between competitions for right now as phase one, so that you could prove to yourself that you can comply with your plan between competitions without the fear of God, and then to very slowly reintroduce controllable foods between competitions?
That is
I'm
an
just
interesting
brainstorming with you.
idea.
Please push
Yeah,
back.
yeah. I love it. I love it because believe me, I've been brainstorming with myself about this. The question has been, can I truly have a bagel in the morning and then say to myself, okay, you had a bagel in the morning and you tracked it and you put it as part of your macros, and that's it. Now you're done with the controllables. You can have another one tomorrow.
It sounds like you can do that during a competition. What it sounds like to me,
Yeah.
Shari, is that you're trying to mature a little bit with regards to your motivation. You've discovered that you can do a lot of things when you have the fear of God in you, but you don't like living with that forever. And that you're experimenting with identity-based motivation, but it hasn't been long enough. You don't have this super strong identity yet. And so the identity-based motivation is not quite as strong as the fear of God yet. But that's okay. It's like if you're starting a new exercise, if you're used to doing squats and now all of a sudden you're going to do pull-ups, you
Right.
kind of have to work on your form and maybe use some bands to assist you to begin with. And you know what I mean?
Great
Like,
analogy. Absolutely. Yeah, really good analogy.
yeah, I wonder if, and I've had a lot of success phasing things in with people. A
Hmm.
lot of it just doesn't occur to them that they don't have to jump all the way up the stairs all at once. Like, what's the shortest step that they can take right now without any possibility of failure? I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah. help me understand again what you're thinking, because I want to explore
Well,
this
it sounds
path.
like it
Hmm.
sounds like the fear of God motivates you to control your controllable foods
Yeah,
during competitions,
correct. Yes.
right?
Hmm.
It sounds like between competition, the fear of God isn't there, and your identity is burgeoning and needs to be protected in a kind of cocoon. And so you have some motivation, but not quite the same level of motivation. So
Right.
why do the most tempting things? If moderating some of these controllable foods is the most tempting thing that requires the most motivation between competitions, why not make it easier for yourself?
Yeah, I think what I'm thinking right now is, so let's say I wake up tomorrow morning. So I'm kind of off my vacation, right? I've kind of had my week of vacation, and I'm back on the plan now. And I think that having this aha moment today of I do the work is that my hope would be, if I did have something on the controllable food list tomorrow, that I'd be like, okay, that's great. I had that. I do the work, which is following my plan, which means I want to be able to rejoice, actually. I want to be able to rejoice in the idea of that I am able to have foods in my plan that maybe others would consider bad. I guess that's maybe really it. I don't want to think of like this food is bad or this food is good. I want to think about it as that I'm able to have a wide array of foods.
I don't think you have to think about it as bad or good
Yeah.
food. But I think certain foods are more tempting than other foods.
Attempt, yes.
They're
Binge
more
triggering.
palatable.
Yes. Yeah.
They're more palatable. And they're more
Yeah.
likely to make you want more.
Yes.
So, all right. Well, I mean,
Yeah.
another way to look at it is that if you're really going to do the work, that you're
Yeah.
going to have to do more work to control your foods between competitions than you need to do to control them during competitions. So that
Yes.
means like more refutations, more reliance on the ritual, more listening to
Yes.
your big why.
Hmm.
When you go on vacation, do you go off plan entirely or do you have a vacation plan?
So vacation, it's part of the food rules,
Okay, good.
and it does state that. So two things that I must do kind of before each month that have actually been very helpful is that I identify what I call splurge events, that I allow myself four events or four times within a month, and it's kind of turned out to be about weekly, if you will, where I do allow myself to really kind of eat whatever I want during those events. So if it's a sporting tailgate, or if it's a wedding, or if it's a dinner with friends, or if it's something like that, it's all kind of listed out specifically what those things are. And so before the month starts, it's like I kind of go, okay, you've got these sort of watch out events coming up. Let's not try to avoid them. Let's build it into the plan and say those are the four splurge events, and like you're good to go. And I literally write them down so I know what they are. And then for vacations, like, literally kind of periods of time which are a bit longer, where I'm physically away on vacation, or I kind of consider this sort of week right after a big fitness competition a vacation. I do have in my food plan that I need to identify a vacation. I think it's written like at least 14 days in advance. So again, I knew that this week following the competition was like sort of quote unquote a vacation, but the vacation's now over. So I actually haven't really even defined if I would have a
I
vacation
think that
after my
all
next
sounds perfect.
competition.
I just
Yeah.
wanted to make sure you had boundaries for the vacation. It's
Yes, I
because I
do.
find people do a lot better with that than just letting the pig out entirely.
On vacation, I would try to eat at least half my protein goal, and then I would try to eat greens every day also. So that keeps me a little bit like on the wagon.
Just for the audience, I find that people do a lot better having a longer leash for the pig on vacations as opposed to letting it off the leash. Much easier for them to get back on if they had some level of discipline.
Yeah, the protein is so important. So a little bit of my public service announcement, how important it is, especially as we age, to make sure, I believe, that you continue to have a good amount of protein so that you are increasing the lean muscle within your body, which has so much benefit from a longevity perspective and a mobility and movement perspective. And so I really have worked very hard to make sure that when I'm on vacation, I'm at least trying to get really good sources of protein.
How can I help? It sounds like you have a really good plan. There's a couple of little areas we had to brainstorm. Is there any other way that I can help you?
I want to make the commitment to myself today to keep those controllable foods in my diet, and to be able to do the work. I have the refutations that you and I have worked on. and commit to utilizing them on a daily basis. I've recorded my food plan. I've listened to it occasionally, and I'd like to make the commitment to myself that tomorrow I will every day listen to the recordings of my food plan and my refutations, and that I was going to say that I will do the work, but that I do the work. I do the work.
What will the trigger be to remind you to do that?
I wake up every morning at 4:30 and I go downstairs and I have kind of a ritual that I go through to get myself ready to go to the gym. And I'm very alone during that time. And I am going to, from now on, turn on my phone while I'm doing that. There's nothing else going on. I'm just emptying the dishwasher. I'm making my nutritional supplements for the morning and for the day. And just when I get downstairs and I put that phone on the counter island, I'm going to turn them on.
Here you go.
Mm-hmm.
When you put it on the island or when you hear the dishwasher close,
Yes.
that's the time to put it on.
Mm-hmm. I'm making my cup of coffee. Yeah.
There you go.
I'm really excited about it. I was very excited to talk to you about it. I was thinking that what you and I would talk about today, as I said, I feel like I need some new mantra, some new refutation. I need something. And this morning, while I was working out and going for a run as part of the workout, it came to me. It came to me. So I was really excited to share it with you today.
Lovely. I'm glad that you did. Any final comments or thoughts for yourself, for the audience?
I'll just say, I mean, I've been so grateful for having found your programs and your writings and working with you over the last several months. And I was really excited to do this last part. I know it's optional in your program, but I think for your listeners, I highly recommend it if they do have access to it. I think that this identity exercise is going to be a real game changer for me and
Thanks, Shari.
hopefully for your audience.
Put a lot of work into it. Thank you. And so did my coaches. They helped me a lot with it. Okay, if anybody had questions for you, should they just put them on the blog or where should they get you?
Yeah, actually, they can reach me on Facebook. My first name is Shari, Shari. Last name Ciapka, Ciapka. There's only one of me in the world, and I'm on Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn as well. So I'd be happy to hear from anybody. And thank you to that point. I am on a mission to help other people with their fitness and lifestyle goals. So I really welcome that.
Very cool.
I have been admitting, of course, this binge eating disorder, but the smoking part is quite a revelation to many people too. But it's fine.
That you used to smoke. You know what? I found out that my mom used to smoke when I was about 21 years old.
Oh my God.
And I couldn't believe it. I had such a different image. But then knowing that she quit, that was really important to me too.
Yeah. Actually, I consider it one of the greatest accomplishments of my life, and it still is rather mesmerizing to me that the strong why of not smoking in front of my kids could be that strong. And that's what I'm really seeking right now, is to have that why that is that strong. And really, you have been fundamental in supporting me in this, and I'm so appreciative.
You're very welcome, Shari. You're very welcome. It's a delight.
And that brings us to the end of today's broadcast of Defeat Your Cravings, hosted by Dr. Glenn Livingston. Now, if you'd like to find out more about the products and services Dr. Glenn offers to help you dramatically reduce your cravings and stop overeating in 90 days or less, please visit defeatyourcravingscoaching.com. That's defeatyourcravingscoaching.com. Thanks.